Hey everyone, so this is my 15th recording of my rings workouts. This is the second of the rings workouts that I've done where I've transitioned to a new program. The previous video was focused on my straight arm split day, and then this is my bent arm split day. Essentially, my straight arm days are focused more on static skills and really anything where I'm not doing a substantial amount of like bending my arm, so to speak, mostly focused on isometrics. So that is, the skills of handstands, front levers, back levers, etc. It does tend to be very isometric and skill focused days, not quite as dynamic. Whereas my bent arm days are more of the traditional strength training, like pull ups, dips, etc. I found it to be a very optimal split for a bit more of advanced calisthenics training because I can squeeze in more of these workouts per week, and I will find that I'm increasing my strength pretty substantially, especially from the isometrics, without actually having that much additional soreness. And so, what I've decided to do to structure here, I've kind of been doing this on the straight arm days, but especially on the bent arm days, I've structured my sets into what's called a neuro set, which is essentially a giant set where you go from a high complexity, high tension generating movement. In this case, this would be the weighted pull ups. And then you move on to a more explosive or dynamic movement, which would have been the muscle ups. But I decided to do those first just to give them a shot. And then you finally end with an endurance or muscle building focused movement. Again, there's a lot of variety here, but it's essentially high tension, high intensity for the first one, then explosive or dynamic, and then kind of an endurance bodybuilding focus. And the idea there is to just kind of maximize all possible strength adaptations within one set. You try to do these with as minimal rest as possible, so it's essentially one continuous set, and you do that for 3 sets. I found this to be a really interesting and like very stimulating way to train. I think it's pretty awesome. It's also just extremely time efficient. It's allowed me to condense a huge workload into a very short amount of time. And while the kind of, you know, intensity and volume within the set is high, the actual overall volume is not too high. The one thing with this is these neuro sets are super demanding. And so if you're not used to kind of this training in a very versatile hybrid way, it could be a lot. Here I am actually using the neuro grips. I realize that the camera cuts this off, but I am basically using the neuro grip implement, which is a very difficult to use handle that requires a ton of tension being generated. So you can see here that my hands and forearms are struggling to stabilize. Essentially, there's almost no balance. There's just kind of like a tiny end point that you press into the dirt. What I love about these is they're a great pressing implement, so I can take them with me anywhere I want. They're really sturdy. I think they're aluminum. It's just like a solid piece of metal. So if there's really no bend or give. It's very stable. And the only thing you really have to worry about is making sure that you're putting them on a surface that has enough traction that you're not going to slip. And then make sure you're actually strong enough to do it. As you saw here, when you gas out, you just kind of fall. And so you can either catch yourself with your knee, set a pillow out, do it on a soft surface, etc. I think the fear of falling is innate, but when you're actually doing it, you realize that you're not that far off of the ground because you're doing these push-up variations. And so the potential for, really hurting yourself and actually falling hard is very low. My set was pretty. My sets were pretty short today because I was just gassed from work and other obligations. I'm going up into a deload, but I was really just making sure that this kind of neuro set format worked because this is the first bent arm program I've done where I just kind of like did all of it. I didn't do all of the neuro sets, but I did a fair amount, so it kind of gives you the gist of what I was doing. Here, I just used the rings to hook my feet to do box headstand push-ups. So if you're ever in need of a box and you don't have a box, you can just hook your feet through the rings. And I love these because I can adjust the height very incrementally and keep a consistent standard regardless of other, available equipment, essentially. So yeah, this is just a quick one. I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions about my split or programming, just ask in the comments below.